there's the theme of rebellion, and I wanted like the handbook to be kind of post-punkish, retro-futuristic sci-fi thing, like maybe a lo-fi pamphlet produced by rebels, looking like a lo-fi pamphlet produced by rebels themselves somewhere in some drifting station somewhere. So that's what drove the aesthetic choices behind it.
Hi, welcome to the Daiku Podcast. I'm Gary Snow. Today I welcome some of the creative minds behind the ORU Uprising, which is launching on Kickstarter on October the 4th. We have Aiko, who is well known for the Lost Bay podcast and Sky Realms, and is pulling together all the work under the umbrella of the Lost Bay Studio. Marco Serrano, also known as Spicy Tuna, who has previously made Mothership Adventures, Knights of Lazarus, and Constant Downpour. And finally, Josh Demansky, who is a returning guest from interviews about The Bloom, a liminal horror adventure, and he's here to discuss They Won't Cage Us. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm super excited by this box set. And Aiko, you've been putting bundles together for a little bit of time now. And can you just talk to us about your philosophy at Lost Bay Studio?
Yeah, sure. We're launching October 3, not October the 4th.
My apologies.
No problem. And we've been releasing 5-6 bundles in the last 12 months. It's kind of the signature product of the Lost Bay Studio, which is a small publishing house. Oh yeah, that's one in the UK. And so why bundles? I mean, as a publisher, a few key elements. I really like teamwork. I like working with teams, and I like discovering like how creative minds work, what are their universe, their vibes, their routines, etc. And the bundles are a unique occasion to bring several people together, and they create cross collaboration, cross pollination, and that's something that also kind of comes from my 9-to-5 job, so to speak, as a video producer. So I mean, I really love teamwork, and I also kind of, in my own small capacity, try and be like someone who helps creating structures that help creatives find space to express themselves and to reach audiences. And so like bundles were a perfect opportunity for that. And to wrap it up about bundles, then there's like the bundle itself. I like the modularity, the physicality of the bundle, the playfulness of it, like having a box you open with a lot of cool stuff in it, and kind of sends me back to childhood, to some like small bundlish toys I had as a child in France. And that's a mix of things that brought me to this bundle experiment, which has been recurring for the last 12 years, and which is kind of culminating, I hope, in this bigger bundle, ORU Uprising.
Well, I imagine part of the challenge of the bundle is just like with so many different creators, that having everybody's schedules align and make sure that everybody can deliver their goals at points. I'm assuming these guests aside with us, it's probably like herding cats at points where you're trying to like make sure that everything's kind of coming in when you need it to come in. And as well, kind of coming up with a cohesive like view in the bundle. So how did you kind of approach like what the concept was going to be for this particular bundle?
Yeah, so this bundle is a little bit different from the other ones because it's comprised 100% of original material designed for the bundle. So I reached out to a series of designers. Some of them I knew, some are returning the Lost Bay Studio designers, like Josh Demansky, and some of them are new friends, new collaborations. And our ORU Uprising had a theme, kind of an underlying background theme, which is rebellion, which is at the fringes of the universe. We are like far, or like from the core worlds. There's the corps pushing their tech experiments beyond like the point, the bearable point of whatever human it is acceptable, whatever is acceptable humanly. And we have like, of course, horrors, roaming and swarming. We have androids and humans organizing themselves into rebellious factions. So this was like kind of the open pitch of the bundle. And I gave that to designers. I said, we're going to work on that and try and build something around that theme. And you're free to do whatever you want, but we need to find a way to connect all the items with each other, like through the theme and through maybe a little more than the theme, NPCs, events, locations, and stuff. So we started like, I think 6, 7, maybe 8 months ago. I don't know. So we had the time to, develop the bundle and make it grow slowly. And I mean, like Josh and Marco can talk about their experience, but I think like designers had the time to find their own, voice inside that particular project, and how they could also interact with like the project itself and other designers, because there were a few collaborations, unexpected, I guess, between designers of the bundle. So.
And Marco, you've been in the Mothership space designing adventures for some time now. What kind of, prior to this bundle, what do you like about Mothership and being able to design for this this game?
Well, sci-fi in general, I kind of speak about as, for some reason, it clicks in my mind as just more open. Obviously fantasy and a ton of other genres you can go pretty much anywhere you want to go. But sci-fi to me, I don't know. Since it's in the future, you can pull from the past, you can pull from a bunch of what ifs in the future, and it just makes it's easier to be unexpected for myself. And so I like it. I like developing projects in a science fiction setting a lot for that reason. And Mothership, honestly, it clicked because my first module, Constant Downpour, was a system agnostic piece based on, and that's the remaster that Josh has. It was based on a short story by Ray Bradbury, and I then discovered Mothership, and it was just the perfect fit. The panic system is really easy to write for. Integrating a skill tree is really easy to do, and I enjoy doing in a lot of different capacities with like linguistics, or just like pointing out different, not so popular skills. And yeah, the zine format also is just easy to be. I think any game in that fits in 40 pages, is really fun to write for, because it's a little bit more open-ended for you. It's not as filled out already. So
adding to that, Josh, you've been in the horror space here, it seems, between Liminal Horror and Mothership and the Fear Bundle, and you seem to kind of like that or gravitate towards it. And talking about Mothership, and then just the horror aesthetic that it kind of has, the sci-fi horror aesthetic. How do you approach that?
Oh boy,
that's a minor question, little question.
Approaching it is really just I heavily rely on touchstones, and anybody who reads the work that I do, I usually try and include them as well, where just taking inspiration from various pieces of media and trying to kind of bring it forward into a playable space. God, anybody who talks to me for more than 5 seconds will realize that I'm a big Star Wars fan. And so specifically with the Outer Rim Uprising bundle, it's real easy to channel that tone and feeling, the basis of rebellion, and bringing it into, more of a standard sci-fi as opposed to the science fantasy of Star Wars.
And we're looking here at inside the bundle and just kind of the illustrations. And Aiko, maybe you can just talk about like when you were starting to like source artwork and the feel and the vibes of like this particular piece of the bundle. How did you go about that?
So that zine is the Campaign Handbook. it's kind of the connective tissue of the bundle. As I mentioned earlier, like the bundle items share a common theme and setting, basically. But I wanted like an extra layer on top of that, like a zine that kind of like connected and all the items and made it easy to navigate throughout like the items of the bundle. So that's the Campaign Handbook, which is a collection of custom classes, tables, and frameworks. And Josh probably could talk about that because Josh wrote a big chunk of the Campaign Handbook, although there's a huge collaborative part. And so like it's there's the theme of rebellion, and I wanted like the handbook to be kind of post-punkish, retro-futuristic sci-fi thing, like maybe a lo-fi pamphlet produced by rebels, looking like a lo-fi pamphlet produced by rebels themselves somewhere in some drifting station somewhere. So that's what drove the aesthetic choices behind it. I did a lot of work on the layout, sourcing like references from flyers and activists posters from the early 90s with Jean Vert, who's doing the layout design, and the art is by Evangeline Gallagher, who is like a returning collaborator of the Lost Bay Studio. We've been working together a few times, and Evangeline, brought that kind of, I don't know, raw black and white punkish aesthetic to the zine. So that's kind of, how we've built the looks of it. And and I have to say, I'm super excited about that zine. I mean, I think it's a good reason to back the bundle. Like just that zine, like it's a great piece. Like there's a lot of gaming opportunities in it. Like really.
And Josh, you've been really good at information design. The bureau stands out as like a really good piece of the artwork / information design. And how did you approach? Like you did the overall layout for this?
No, that's
sorry.
No, that's Jean Verne. Jean Verne is doing
okay.
the layout.
Okay. Well, with so many collaborators, I'm probably getting them all jumbled up. And then Marco, you did Professional Rebels and People to Bribe. Like that sounds like a fun little adventure or not adventure, but I guess supplement to do.
Yeah. So the whole concept of the bundle, it happened kind of after we were corralled, after the reach out, and Eco did a lot of good just communicating to us about what he was thinking. And I think and honestly, it was a good launching point for both of the zines that I made for the bundle. Professional Rebels was like the first thing that came to mind. I really love creating like factions or organizations or NPCs that can just be plugged in to anything. And that's mainly what Professional Rebels is. It is a collection of NPCs, and then there's two main organizations. The first is Knob Adjustment, which you see on the spread, and Knob Adjustment is they're basically liberated people that have successfully rebelled themselves or gotten themselves out of real cruddy situations, and their whole goal is to help rebellions or help people gain the type of labor rights or anything that they deserve. And so their specialties include just being interconnected with you can see like the list of like secret partners. They have access to like military records, and they're able to get like topographic maps of different planets, or like including like floor plans, things like that. They have hackers that they're associated with. They basically can be the connective tissue to services that you might need to help battle against the corporation or government that's kind of coming at you. And they're also kind of they're just intelligent in other ways where they can help you do things like secret messages. So they might ship in a shipment a hidden transmitter that would be relaying a message that can only be heard if it's deciphered correctly. And so the people who are meant to hear it can, and the people who are not don't know what's happening. So they're like a logistics partner in a way. Yeah, and then the other one is United Fleet Delivery. Sorry, I double checked the name, but they're a giant shipping company. They mostly ship like space construction vehicles, but they work on the lower level as well. And they have like public operations, and then they have like dark web operations, which means they help smuggle drugs and weapons. But then they also have these like unknown operations, which they help people as well. And so they obviously have a massive operation going on that they can help with, smuggling or whatever is needed. And two major partners in that sphere of helping you out. You need a little help, and you don't have the resources. Well, there's some people that are interested in helping.
And I guess I'll ask you, what do you think makes a good faction as far as like for play? What do you, when you start making a faction, how do you approach that?
Yeah, well, I think the most important part is there being like obvious pieces that can fit easily into scenarios. So, for instance, like knob adjustment, for instance, has this whole list of secret partners, and so that I don't know, hopefully is easy to be like, okay, so like, what do we need to fulfill this mission, or what do we need to take down this corporation? Well, maybe we need to steal data, so you can just go right into knowing that they have that access to the hackers. Or likewise, you might need the floor plan to something, to a building that you're trying to break into, and so they also have access to that. So some pieces like that, tables that actually help, I think, are extremely useful versus things that are completely laid out or described for you. Allowing and trusting players and wardens to just work off what you provide. So.
Cool. And then we move on to They Won't Cage Us. And Josh, maybe you want to talk to about on the theme of rebellion and just the uprising.
Yeah, this was a fun one. So when I was brought into the bundle, the original contribution I was working on is kind of what ended up being folded into the campaign handbook, and then I went a little crazy and wrote 15 pages. But I also, at the time, I had a little bit of time available, and I was like, hey, if somebody needs layout on one of their adventures, give me a shout and I can lend a hand. I ended up going a little bit more in depth than I had originally planned, and took 3 months longer than I wanted, but we ended up with this project here. So They Won't Cage Us is written primarily by Tim Obermuller, who most recently you might know from The Curse of the Hatman and Hoss, which I think is just fulfilling right now. I think he did Burning a Carbex as the other bigger adventure that he wrote. But the idea was, it's a pretty simple concept. There is this prison that's being constructed on a planet in the Outer Rim, assumedly in a system that has some connection to the player characters, if you're playing, straight from how the zine is written. And the idea is it's under construction, but it's also partially in use. So they've been putting prisoners in there, but there's a couple of these bubbles that are being built at the moment. So your job is to basically get the corporations to think that this prison is a lost cause, so that they can no longer leverage it against the people of at least the system or the Rim in general. So you infiltrate, and you're given a number of objectives to basically just break shit, but do it slyly. So you disrupt the prison's activities and maybe rescue some of the prisoners if that's kind of how you want to roll it. And through that, you can kind of get the corporation to go bankrupt and get the hell out of the rim. But in terms of design, when I came in, Tim had a lot of it written already. And so we just kind of riffed off of what was there and use that to kind of allow us to finish. That first page that you showed there is going to be an A3 poster. That's a little bit of a supplement. The map is also represented in the zine, but this poster itself is sort of unique as an item. So to backtrack just a hair, when I joined in on the Fear bundle, what I had worked on there was I had written this adventure. It was called the Vanished, and it was a 1-page dungeon for it was a 1-page dungeon contest in 2022. And so when the Fear bundle was coming out, I was like, hey, I want to get this printed, but I'm going to expand it. I'm going to make it into a big poster. And so I took that original thing and blew it up into A3. Then we printed it in the Fear bundle. And so when we came to Outer Rim Uprising, I was like, hey, it'd be really cool to do this again because I hate myself. Because these are all like mouse-drawn vector assets, and I keep saying I'm never going to do it again, and then I do it again. So They Won't Cage Us was like the perfect opportunity to do this again. So we looked at a couple of real-world examples. I'm an engineer in my day job, so I deal with engineering drawings all day. So I wanted it to look like an engineering drawing. That's why you have like the border and the title block and whatnot. And then there was there's this company, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they really exist. And all they try and do is push these domes. And they really want to build real world prisons out of these dome structures that they've designed. So I found a bunch of their like spec drawings that they send to clients, and I was like, this is gonna work for this project. So I took that general concept, I brought it in here, and then we basically designed the prison around those dome structures, and you can kind of see the map here. So that was all this cool A3 poster, and then I was like, hey, it'd be really cool if this was like an artifact that your crew was given, so all of your objectives are written as if they were done by hand on top of this map, as if the rebels had stole this map and were giving it out to you before you dive into your mission. So it's all like marked up and stuff, so you can give this map to your players if you want while you're running from the zine itself. But getting into the zine real quick, and I'll keep this short. I wanted the zine to look like a engineering document. Like I said, I do this as a day job, so this is kind of coming from my own personal inspiration, where just making something that's clean and easy to use. The biggest job for engineers when it comes to writing is making it so the regulators know what the heck you're talking about. So really just clean information design is how to go about it. So for the zine, I took that inspiration. I was like, hey, what if this is an engineering document that the rebels also stole? So you've got the basic maps as they show up, as if they were figures in a report. And then it's broken down into a 2-column system where you've got your basic descriptions of the space, and then you have additional warden information that might be relevant to the room, depending on which room you're in. You can see that there's a few here where we didn't have a whole lot of text. But then we're like, hey, let's add in the objectives. So I did that in another like fake handwriting style, as if somebody had stolen this and was, putting their own objectives in there and whatnot. And then there's a little bit of kit bashed art, just pulling from some public domain stuff, as if somebody was, making addendums to this report that they stole as well.
Well, it's a fun little document, and I love that in-world kind of handout that you can give the players. It just really immerses them.
Yeah, can I add something about that? Yeah, like the whole point of the bundle, like in its original concept and design, was for it not to be only like a collection of zines, but to be like a package filled with items. And I'm so happy that in the bundle there are many player-facing accessories or zines that are written in a way that can support some kind of, there are adventures and modules, yes, of course, with all you can expect from gaming material, but they can support some kind of, I don't know, immersive experience somehow. So yeah, both the physicality and the summoning of the world into the items themselves is something that we work together to kind of yeah, to make happen in the bundle, and it's happening. I mean, I think it's really happening, and yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about that. So so
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love about kind of the indie space is like people tend to really take that kind of consideration into their game design. Like, how can I make the experience more immersive for the players and just real hands-on and tangible, and kind of have that DIY feel to it. And one of the other things, like in the indie scene, is Mothership, and the ability to, they've left a lot of space for other people to contribute to the community, and faster than light travel and Blink. Tell us about that.
Sure. So Faster Than Light Travel and Blink, it's a module by David Blandy. It's mostly, it's designed for Mothership, although in its mechanics, it's mostly system neutral. And I think it's a great addition to the game. And I'm not going to spoil everything, but basically it's built around a couple of mechanics for what happens when you go through a wormhole or you use a jump drive, based on how you do it. Are you using smuggled equipment? Are you like using, I don't know, like hacked codes to go through the wormhole? Are you, what's happening? Like, what are the conditions? What's the context? Like, and basically it's built around the dice pool. And shit is gonna happen basically when you go through a wormhole, or when you use a jump drive, when you do faster than light travel, modeled based on a lot of some criteria and how you build your dice pool. And you're gonna have several tables with the results of what's gonna happen to you when you do your faster than light travel. It's really a fun module, and it's got kind of a companion. David has written a sector generator leaflet that is inside an audio tape, which is like the sounds of space, and which was like planned together with Blink. Has, I don't know, maybe like the sounds of the sector you would end up like randomly when your jump fails or something like that. And yeah, that's a really cool module.
Well, one of the best things about space travel is it provides the warden an opportunity to just throw the players a curveball and see what happens. And Marco, back to you for Knuckles Company.
Yeah, Knuckles Co. So Knuckles Co. is kind of on the opposite side of Knob Adjustment and United Fleet Delivery, and it's one of the go-to security companies. But of course, they don't have. They're kind of like Blackwatery. They don't have like a moral code of ethics. They work for whoever's paying them. So there may be times where they are helping you out because you have paid them, and there may be times where they are doing really awful things because somebody else in your opposition has paid them. So that's basically their whole shtick is, morality doesn't matter, money matters. And but I'm really, really excited about Knuckles Co. as a whole. They have like a lot of different specialties that I wrote in so that they could be extremely versatile. So like they do like building security, and based on that building security, there is a spread. I think I don't know if it's in the slide or not, but there's a whole spread of their patrols, how long they take to do the entire route, and their varying routes, what teams are assigned to certain routes of security. So there are specialists that are guards more or less. There are specialists that are assassins, so they might be more of the recon, going out in the field and circling around versus directly on the perimeter, and all kinds of little pieces like that. They do crowd control. They do recollections, which includes people who owe other people's debts, and of course they do terminations as well. So that would be not so much termination as far as firing people, but terminations in the wet work sense. And so, yeah, they're just like a really kind of versatile security company, and yeah, I'm excited. I don't know.
They're mean in so many ways.
I love the idea of the players going, but I thought we were friends. Like, at least last adventure we were.
Yeah, I think that would be like a really interesting little thing to do to them. They are by hire, and they do have like some code to, they have a reputation to uphold too, but they could definitely be bought out. And so this one has an adventure inside, like a storyline that's happened, a security perimeter as an example that can be played through as well. So this one's more of, it's very plug and play, but then it's also just playable right out of the zine as well.
Cool. And then you go back to you talking about this other adventure, Hunger. And how do you pronounce this?
Josh, do you know how you pronounce this?
Yeah, I tried to take this one because I got into it a little bit. Officially, I think it's Acronar.
I just learned like yesterday that like that's a star or system that actually exists somewhere, like in our own galaxy or somewhere in the universe. Like Acronar exists like for real, which makes this zine even more spooky to me. I don't know, but
yeah. So I ran a actual play of this that will go live soon. So I've read the finalized zine, have a little bit of an idea. So just real quick, this comes from David Kenny, who is responsible for a few pretty popular Mothership third-party adventures. Nirvana's one, I think it's Dying Hard on Hardlight Station, and The Cleaning of Prison Station Echo are the ones that I remember off the top of my head. But the fun part about this one is, like, we have a lot of really varied items that are part of this bundle. This one is getting back into horror. Like, this is the true Mothership experience if you're looking for that. It ties into the factions that we have a little bit, and it's a good job to give your crew if you're looking for like a varied sort of experience throughout your Outer Rim Uprising campaign. But it's a pretty simple setup. There is a ship that went missing with an experimental jump drive. They've reappeared. At least their signal has reappeared. So you're sent in to, find them. Whether you want to bridge that a little bit more directly with some of the other factions is up to you. But the base idea, I think, is that your characters have I think it's like 5 or 6 different starting scenarios that you can work with that's sort of native to the book. That sort of drives your motivations and goals. But you get there, you find out that star that this ship is on is really messed up, and the ship itself is really messed up. And so it's a good classic, survive, solve, save type scenario where you get in and maybe you complete your objective and maybe not.
Well, I love the cover. It's very evocative of horror again, and I think what drew a lot of people to Mothership, like you said, it's like old school Mothership. This is you're going to be in for a ride type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And the cover art is by Vil, not sure how to pronounce the name, and the layout is by Gontijo, who some people might know. So it's kind of a kick-ass team, honestly.
So this is like, I mean, truly the who's who of like some really good adventure design and artists out there and layout artists. So it's like pretty impressive that you were able to pull all these together. And how many items are in this bundle now? Let's just talk about that again, like, because we're not even halfway through kind of all the pieces here. How many are in here?
So depends on how you count them, because some are paired, some are, so it's around 20 items in the higher tier. So yeah, 20 items. Yeah, divided in kind of like 2-3 categories. There's like the adventures, like more ready to go adventures, and there's like modules which kind of bring some, I don't know, adventure building extensions to your Mothership game. There's the Campaign Handbook, which is like its own thing, which the frameworks that Josh has built to help you run an Outer Rim campaign from the items in the bundle. And then there's the player-facing accessories, and some of those items are I don't know, check several of those categories. So yeah.
And here's another one. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. Citus 2.
Yeah. So this is from Christian Sorel and Nier. It's a double trifold pamphlet. So it's super cool. It's an adventure basically. So as Warden, you have material for an adventure, but those two pamphlets that go together are written as in-game material, and they pulled something really cool here, like making them at the same time adventures and in-game material about that facility on Sidus 2. One pamphlet is written by the corp that manages the facility, and it's kind of a welcoming pamphlet, actually an in-game pamphlet for the corp personnel that takes them through a corporate tour of the facility. And the other one is a rebel pamphlet on how to sabotage and break things inside the Sidus 2 facility. So as Warden, you can use them in a lot of ways, like behind the screen to build your adventure. You can hand one of them to the players, and yeah, again, a lot of modularity in the way you can approach the bundle and use it in play. There's like kind of different layers. You can go real quick into an adventure, or add layers and build a longer campaign with more depth. And
I love the name, A Saboteur's Guide to Sidus 2. That
Yeah.
I love the saboteur. It's just such an awesome terminology. I always love that. And then Rusted to the Core.
Rusted to the Core, like the amazing cover is by Jolly. I don't know. Sorry, guys, I've got a blank.
Holly Jenka, right?
Holly Jenka. I'm sorry, I've been working with her like daily. I don't know what's happening. Stress levels again. Holly Jenka. It's an amazing cover, and that's an adventure by Chris Ario that will take you to a floating gas harvesting and processing plant, where like there's an android labor force, and that android labor force is going into the deeper levels of that giant gas planet, and is trying to talk about it without spoiling it, is kind of encountering things that have effects and that spark a riot, and the adventure plugs in nicely within several factions and other items of the Outer Rim world, and yeah, I mean, it's a really spooky, cool adventure. A faction-based adventure where you have a very strong faction, and you have two strong factions, and you've got a clash. And that's something that I think it's present throughout the campaign, which is, I mean, kind of You were talking about like the hangar in Acronar saying like it's classical mothership setup, like corps send you somewhere, you're gonna meet the horror. What we try to add to Outer Rim Uprising is like a third element, which is like the pushback, like the players or some NPCs are pushing back, and so there's kind of a trifecta: the corp, the horror, and the pushback, the rebellion, and there's a lot of clashes. And Rusted to the Core is one of those examples. There are a lot of very cool clashes, a very cool setup, and I mean a lot of stuff I'd love to talk about, but that would be a shame. That would spoil like the pleasure of reading it, and horrible things.
Well, it's like the Cloud City of Bespin in The Empire Strikes Back in a dark, demented way.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good way to put it.
And then we've got Surviving Machine Parts.
So that's from Zach Hazard-Wopen, who is a returning collaborator of the Lost Bay Studio bundles. And when we started talking with Zach about, so that's a module. That's a module about cybernetic implants. I mean, the name is quite explicit about what's going to happen. If you use one of those cybernetic implants, you're gonna try to survive it. It's gonna make you, I don't know, probably a stronger, better, faster, something better human. But it's gonna come with some challenges. And so I just said to Zach, listen, I'd love if you did something with machines and flesh, whatever, because Zach's art. So Zach did the text, the layout, and the art. Zach's art is a lot about those two themes, flesh and machines, kind of merging together in twisted ways. And Zach just said, "Yeah, of course." And so it kind of brings a more slightly cyberpunkish touch to the bundle with this theme of cyber implants. And it's a really cool module you can use to spice up NPCs or to spice up your plays, or even build a campaign around it. Like the whole premise of the bundle, of the module is like there's like military grade cybernetic implants being smuggled and sold in the black market by rebels everywhere in the Outer Rim, and that's kind of the catalog of those implants and what they can do to you if you use them.
And this might be a good time to maybe switch back to Josh and just kind of ask, because Josh, you do a lot of good layout and look at branding, or not branding, but just like the overall art direction of a lot of items. And Mothership, it's really an open area for people to bring their own kind of voice to it and like look and feel to it. Like there's no consistent, like, obviously nobody here is probably a big fan of 5e, but like everything just kind of looks the same. But whereas Mothership, you get some really unique layouts and just kind of visions.
Yeah, it's Mothership, even like the base modules that they put together. Sean McCoy is probably one of the best layout design like artists in the scene, like in all of tabletop RPGs. And it's kind of strange when you start pulling these little zines together, and they're absolutely fantastic. But it's like Gradient Descent is one of the big ones that it sort of changed how I personally look at information design. And they came right out of the bat with this super strong layout when you have the Mothership, and they followed almost immediately with Dead Planet there, where it's all very usable, it's all very thematic. And with those two sort of, high pinnacles, I think it was in 2017 to start with, you get this community that spawns out of it that's taking inspiration, and then everybody's taking it their own direction, but it's all like visually identifiable as being Mothership, if that makes sense. So it's like we have the one here from Alfred Valley, and it's like this is punk aesthetic. This is, homemade zine from the, the 70s to 80s that people would print on like their own. I don't even know if they'd have home printers, but you go to like Kinko's or whatever shop was around then. But obviously like heavily influenced by the style that we have now. And yeah, even just this bundle itself, you can kind of see the wide breadth of ways that which you can approach it, I suppose.
Yeah,
everybody
I
gets
mean,
to put their
everything
own
looks
sort of
different, but
unique,
they all work together so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one was Alfred told me this one was inspired by posters and flyers of gigs and parties in London in the early 90s. They saw from the car as a young person, as like I don't know, going to school or whatever, and they were just looking at those on the walls, and that's the inspiration for this design. And this one is going to be printed on 4 different colors randomly. So somebody's going to have the green one, the orange one, the pink one, or the yellow one. So
instantly making them collector's items. You have to get
Absolutely.
all 4 colors, right?
Absolutely.
And then the calendar. Just talk about that. That's a fun little project. Is it like a trifold? Like a desktop?
So that's project from New York. I collaborated to it, mostly doing some like in-depth development editing to it, but that's really a New York's project. New York, like both like text, layouts, and the art, like photo bashing. So how does it look like? It looks like basically we hacked what's a desktop calendar. So it's gonna be like a standing item, and now I have new mockups for it. It's a shame I can't show them here. So
and I should note that all of this is kind of still preliminary. Some of these might be older and developing, and even some of the details. Sure. So that's a disclaimer I'll put on all of these.
So it's a player-facing accessory, and it's a procedure to determine if a person is an android or a human. So there's like 2 sides, one for the test subject and one for the examinator. There's a series of questions on the side of for the test subject, and a series of guidelines for the examinator. It can be used by warden or GM or by another player. And of course, at the end of the tests, there are some recommendations on how to manage whatever result you get, a kind of horrible corporate ways to manage whatever result you get, basically. And so very much inspired by Blade Runner, of course, like the what kind of test, not sure how to pronounce that. And it's really a very cool item. I mean, it's there's been some play tests of it, and I know it's been really cool and surprising for people to just go through the whole procedure and discover, I mean, the truth about themselves, like, hey, you're not a human, I'm sorry. You're an android.
Yeah, and just to kind of butt in here real quick on that aspect. As part of the campaign handbook, we have this, I guess it's a mechanic that's called the corporate response, with the idea being that as the crew, the player characters are kind of mucking about and making trouble for the corporations, eventually they're going to respond, through joint effort or individual actions or so on and so forth. So we have this little like stress system that's been built up where things that you do can kind of contribute to it. But to spoil just a little bit of it, one of the higher tier options, the more you kind of muck around and disrupt corporate interests, is that they start replacing your allies with replicant androids in order to spy on you. So that SAP test might come in handy.
Yeah.
Cool.
And-
So it's like a group stress calculator kind of thing, where eventually there's so much stress that the group has taken on, the corporation is starting to kind of push back on you. And,
It's built straight out of the modeled off of the standard stress system and Mothership. Just being for it represents the corporate entities rather than an individual player character.
Cool. And we got NPC. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You go.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that what I really like about what Josh designed with the corporate response is that it kind of expands like the traditional role of the corporation in a mothership setup or adventure, as it becomes kind of more than a background notion, like the bad guys who send you here to do that job, but kind of like a mega abstract NPC, like your real antagonist. That's gonna reveal themselves throughout the campaign if you choose to go through to build a campaign, to build an outer rim campaign, and that's a really cool way to both to support the theme of the bundle and to give depth, to your gaming experience. Like you have now that thing, the corporation that's after you and that's tracking you and that's going to confront you and the confrontation is going to ramp up like in so many ways, and that's really cool.
And no setting or adventure would be without NPCs. So we've got a whole deck of poker cards that are NPCs.
Yeah, so that's the illustrations are final, but the layout is a preliminary layout. We have a new layout now for the stat blocks, which is like darker, and there are from Victor Merino, who's a Spanish designer and illustrator. And Victor Merino has been putting out and sharing on social media for years now portraits, like an infinity of portraits. Of sci-fi portraits, and there aren't two of their portraits that are similar. I don't know how that's possible, but it's like hundreds and hundreds of portraits, and I've been looking for like the right opportunity to work with Victor, and I was so happy that Victor agreed to work to collaborate on the bundle, and we came up with this idea of an NPC deck. So there's two variants of the deck. There's 20 NPCs or 40 NPCs. The decks have the NPCs have kind of an alignment. They are corporation like personnel, rebels, or neutral NPCs. And so on the front you have like a portrait, and on the back you have the stat block. And it's like physical random encounter. Shuffle your deck, throw your NPC on the table, or like use those NPCs like to build an adventure, and like you give a photo to your players. Here we can see I can't read, but I think I remember it's Laura Zhao, who is a scientist who's have a symbiote alien starfish. And on the left, the lady with the beanie and the red hair is an android, is kind of an obsessive babysitter android who's kind of course of malfunctioning and being too much protective towards the players. So yeah, and there's like everything from soldiers, veteran soldiers, or aliens, droids, spies, and wicked characters, and it's really cool. Yeah, here we can see a mock-up of the bundle and of the NPC cards.
Well, and I think there's even more, but I don't have maybe images of some of the other things, but it's just like an incredible amount of work that you put into this, all the different creators, bringing it all together, and it's going to be a fun box to open. So once again, just kind of tell us, when is it kickstarting? October the 3rd?
October the 3rd, 8 a.m. EST. We are launching the campaign for roughly 1 month. And yeah, there's 3 tiers. There's also a digital tier, and it's just they're all packed with a lot of fun and gaming opportunities. So yeah.
Do you have any special like first day backers or anything like that? I'm assuming you have some stretch goals and that kind of thing in mind too.
We don't have stretch goals. We have you back it, you have it all. I mean, there's already so much in it. Like the philosophy was like you back it, you have it all. There are for like the classical, almost now traditional patches for the backers, early backers in the first 48 hours. There's 3 patches, one for each physical level. They're designed by Alfred Valley, and they are actual, patches of factions. Like they're like in-game patches of factions, of Outer Rim factions, of rebel or not rebel factions. And I don't know, I find that so cool. The designs are really cool. I mean, they're by Alfred Valley. Alfred Valley is an amazing designer, patch designer as well. And yeah, I mean, they're so cool. I want them. I'm gonna have them. I need to buy a jacket now for them because I want them.
Yeah, you got to display them if you have them. And
yeah.
So very cool. And so what else have you guys got cooking up, Marco? What's next for you? I think you've got some other things in the hopper.
Yeah. Actually, tomorrow's the last day of a Kickstarter campaign for Outsourced, which is Spicy Tuna's next hardcover module for Mothership. It's a sequel and or prequel to Constant Downpour, and it's kind of a really major piece of, we call it the Tunaverse, but all of our Mothership modules kind of tie together in a way. And actually, that's what I really like about being part of bundles like this is Knuckles Co. and Knob Adjustment and actually United Fleet Delivery has already made an appearance in like a free, and just their logo, but in like a free module we've put out through our newsletter. And so those will be integrated as well, which is really awesome because that's integrated into the campaign notebook. And that happens with Mothership creators too. It's like it's kind of easy to slide together. And then we're releasing our first game, our first own system in November, I think, alongside something that might be happening. I don't know if it's announced yet, but I think we're going to be talking about that in November too. So that'll be after Outer Rim. But yeah, pretty good stuff. Just trying to make.
You've got so many projects on the go. How do you, maybe a blanket question to everybody, I mean, often we all have day jobs, and how do you balance all of this together? Yeah, Josh.
Not well.
Because what else you got going on, Josh? Like you got a lot of things going on.
I'm in the bit off more than I can chew era of my life right now. Just to talk on the quick upcoming projects. So last time I was on the show here was, I think it was back in January. It's been a while. I was talking about The Bloom, which was Liminal Horror's next module. For those who might be coming here just for Mothership, Liminal Horror is a modern horror system, I guess. I was going to say science fiction, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But The Bloom is done. The digital 1.0 release has happened as of, I think, like a week or two ago, and it's currently at the printer. So if you want a physical copy of that, look for Space Penguin Inc., I believe within the next 2 weeks, but I don't know how long it's going to take to get that to the other distributors that we're using. But outside of that, I have, a couple of projects that are under NDA that I can't talk about right now, but one of them might be interesting to folks who are Mothership fans. So keep your eyes peeled. I think we're going to announce that probably early next year, though. So, but that'll be a little bit of a different experience for folks if it ends up coming together nicely. But and in terms of managing it, I just keep saying yes and having absolutely no free time for myself anymore. So
And Eco, you've got, I don't know if you're going to be updating your podcast with some of this content or, but you've got a lot of things on the go as well as your day job. And how do you manage it all? Like, it's a lot.
I've got a trick. I've got a trick for that. I live in Europe. So basically, what does it mean? Like, most of the people I work with in the indie scene are in the US. So when my day is over, it's like 4 or 5 p.m. and I say, oh, okay, I had a good work day. It's cool. I start getting DMs and emails from the US, and there's the second day, which is like the RPG day starting. So of course you have to like say goodbye to sleep, which is an issue, but that's my trick. Like it's like taking advantage of time zones. But yeah, basically I've got a bit too much on my plate myself, or like also right now, and on like that thing about time zones, like it's serious. I've got a watch set on the EST time. When I do some launches, I wear it, because I want to be sure like to be synced up with the US. So
well, we can even see in your background since the start of the interview, it's now pitch black.
Yeah, I'm gonna be eaten by darkness soon. So yeah, with the studio, like on the publishing side, I'm gonna keep doing bundles, although there are a few changes on how things are going to happen. I'm going to work on less bundles, probably bigger bundles. I've started working on the bundle, which is co-curated by Samantha Lee, on solo games. And this bundle is going to be for me a cool opportunity to do better what I've tried to do like since the inception of the Lost Bay Studio, is to support first-time designers or younger designers, and creating a context where they work with more experienced designers that can like give some traction to the projects. And also this solo bundle is gonna like to, I don't know, be a step further into diversity and supporting a wider range of designers from a lot of point of views. So I'll keep doing bundles. I mean, if people like them, probably less bundles, more original content, less curated bundles. Some of the bundles I've published in the previous months were kind of made of a mix of original content and kind of redux hyper curated content. From now on, I want to focus on original content bundles. And then there's the second thing I'm really excited about. It's the Lost Bay game. There's an early access version released on itch right now. I released it, I don't know, 1.5 months ago. It's a modern horror game in which you play young persons so in kind of a 90s, early 90s suburban weird setting, abstract setting. I mean, it's not somewhere. And you play a young person who have been touched by the weird, which gives them powers, very much inspired by media from the late 80s, early 90s. A power that makes them, I don't know, extraordinary, but that consumes them. And there's a very strong horror theme, suburban and horror theme. And I'm going to release a physical edition early next year, hopefully. And yeah, right now I'm working at step-by-step expanding the early access version and supporting the community. There's a couple of designers already working on compatible content, and it's really cool because they are expanding the game and the setting, bringing to their own cultural background. And I mean, that's super exciting. So yeah, The Lost Bay, it's the next thing, early next year, hopefully more horror, but with another flavor. Urban, modern. I keep saying contemporary, but I forget that the 90s are not contemporary anymore. So I might have a bias here. So
maybe a little bit
not
still.
Contemporary.
I still think I'm 25, so I get it. But I just want to say, congratulations on putting together what looks to be like a really exciting bundle.
Thank you.
all the work that's gone into it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Kickstarter be a success. And I just want to say thank you all for joining us today, and happy to have you back in the future to talk about your other games.
Thank you for having us.